Love that. Erin, for the people that are going to watch this or hear this and don't know much,
Yeah,
please can you introduce yourself, who you are, and what you do?
sure. Yeah, so my name is Erin Remington. I am a curator at SAATCHI Art. So basically, that fancy title just means that I work with both artists and buyers. SAATCHI Art is it's the world's online largest art gallery. And so I work with collectors sourcing artworks for their home, designers working on projects, and then also work with artists to find new talent all over the world. That's one of the things that I love about SAATCHI Art is that we have artists in over 100 countries and collectors in over 100 countries. We're a completely global company. So you could be talking to an artist from India and then Canada and then the UK, and similarly with collectors. So it's definitely fills my cup of international love and creators globally. Yeah, and I manage the department there. So there's about 5 of us in the sales team. And so yeah, I've been there for about almost 5 years now. For a
Wow.
while. Yeah.
Do
So
you love
it's
it? You sound
I
like you
do.
do it.
I do. I really love it. I'm really passionate about what I do, and it's amazing to I think it's hard being in the creative industry, and especially working in art galleries. I've been in other companies where the gallery world can be really toxic, or not great people or kind people to work for, and there is a great overwhelming like mutual respect with everybody that I work with, and everybody's really passionate about what they do, um, and working with artists and creatives. I think of myself as a creative first, and then I think I'm more in the business side of it. And this space, a lot of people ask me, "Oh, are you an artist yourself? You work with artists?" And I'm so hesitant to say yes, but I
Really?
yeah, I it's because I work with professional artists all day, and I do paint and I do that for fun, but I see it so much more as a hobby. I know that creative is such a I think as kids you learn like, oh, if you know how to draw a body well or a face well, then you're an artist. But the word creativity and creative is so much larger than that, that I do feel sometimes like I'm not a creative. I'm just facilitate things with creative people. But yeah,
I think the words change as well. I think when somebody calls themselves an artist, it automatically means
yeah,
they're getting paid for it. Or if you call yourself a creative, it's like, okay, so what are you getting paid to do? No one's doing things as
right,
hobbies now. It's so rare to hear someone say that I'm an artist for a hobby. It's always like monetize your skill, right?
right. I That is the era that we're in. We're in the side hustle era. Where
Mm,
everything is you do everything to monetize it, which I think is amazing.
yeah.
On one hand, it's great, but then there's this pressure that your art doesn't mean something if it's not selling, and a lot of times it's really just it's like another form of journaling or processing your life of creating, photographing, or writing a song, or whatever it is that your creative expression is. But you're right, there is this idea of if you're saying you're a creative, then there has to be like monetizing it. um, I think that's why I don't say I'm an artist, because I don't sell my works.
I don't know. So you're hesitant to call yourself an artist. What would your title be? What would you call yourself?
I wouldn't say I'm an artist, but I think actually I would say I'm a more of like a creative person. I do love like interiors and design, and I just moved into my first apartment on my own. Yeah, which is not, you're seeing like my most bare part of my apartment, which I'm like, I need a piece of artwork right behind me. Um, if you're listening to this, you can, and you don't see me, there's a very large open wall behind me with no artwork, which is not speaking well to what I do at all. Um, but the rest of my home has lots of beautiful paintings and other things like that. So yeah, I would call myself a creative. yeah, I think I probably contradicted myself, but as we're talking through this, I would call myself a creative, but not an artist.
It's not going to be that kind of chat. Don't worry. Put yourself whatever you want to
no
call yourself.
fact, no fact checking.
No, definitely. And because of the role you discussed, you're like an art curator, right?
Yes,
That's your role.
yes.
So how does one become an art curator? Like, is that something you knew you wanted to do when you were younger? Like, you're like, I definitely want to go into art. Tell me about how you came to this role.
No, yeah, no, I mean, I always loved art growing up as a kid. I always went to art museums. My grandma was an artist. I was definitely always exposed to it. I think if the more you can expose kids to good music, films, art, everything like expands their capacity to love and appreciate those things. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of that. But no one in my family ever was in the gallery or museum world. So I didn't even know that this was a profession that you could be in growing up.
Right.
And in high school, which in the United States, that's, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar. In high school, I took this class, an art history AP class, which is advanced placement. You get credit for college if you take this course. And I took an art history course, which was quite random, but I thought, okay, I'll start getting college credit. And I fell in love with it. I love history, and it was this visual representation of history. And so that kind of started this journey of me figuring out being in the arts world and what kind of jobs and opportunities there was. I didn't know if it would be in teaching or museum studies or art history. My background is that I got a business degree. My family was like, you need to have a fallback. Humanities isn't really, we don't know. We're not, because like I said, no one in my family much more traditional jobs everybody had ever had. So I had a business degree and minored in art history, and took some internships during that time. Interned at an art museum in Laguna Beach, and taught art enrichment programs in middle school. So I was kind of figuring out like education or museums, and then I did another internship at a gallery in Los Angeles, and like through that I just realized, okay, I think I really like being in a traditional gallery space. And from there I got my master's in art history. So I went back to school. I was then going to get my PhD from King's College in London, actually, but at the same time I got offered the job at SAATCHI. So it was at this like crossroad in life. And at that point, I'd already finished my undergrad, got my master's, and I'm like, okay, I've been doing school for so long. I think I'm ready to make money.
Yes.
I think I'm ready to make money and not be in school. I think it would be amazing to go back to school at some point and get my doctorate, and I think there's so much time in life for that. Maybe I'll be, in my 50s or something and going back to school for that. It just didn't seem like the right time. I was ready to expand my wings and start really working in the field that I had been. I think in the creative industry, especially with galleries, so many jobs are unpaid, which I think is illegal now here in the United States. You can't have unpaid internships, but at the time it wasn't when I was interning. And
Yeah.
I did so many unpaid jobs and so many working for people. And there was a point where I was getting my master's and had 2 different jobs and interning, and I was hustling. I hustled a lot. And I think that is something that you don't hear a lot about. At least you may hear that I hear that from artists. Oh, I will be a waitress, but then be painting on the side. But I don't feel like you hear that the same from, I don't know, like a traditional 9 to 5, more business side of the creative field, that especially entry level positions are so few and far between to find, or if you do, the pay isn't well. And if you're in a city, most of the time that's where those jobs are, it's not going to be able to pay your rent, the rent of what it costs to have an entry level job at these creative places don't always align. So yeah, I think and that goes back to all the side hustles. People are like, okay, I can do these other things to supplement. So yeah, to answer your first question, it was not something that I ever grew up knowing about. It just sort of evolved over time. And I think that's
Yeah,
I think that's with everyone, especially with a field that, it's not a normal, I'm a nurse or doctor or a lawyer or something. But I'm grateful. I think it's a really interesting field to be in. And yeah, I love being with art and feeling inspired every day.
I love that, honestly, and I love that you said that you've evolved. I understand that, and I also feel like you put in a lot to keep going back and looking for internships as well, and going back to
Yeah.
like a lot of people as well. So, for example, I used to be a teacher. Then I literally
Hmm.
woke up one day and I was like, nope, I I don't want to do this. I know I've always
Yeah.
presenting, but I had zero media experience. So I had to start from the beginning, interning, doing so many internships, sorry. And I love that you said obviously that you just came to a point where you're like, no, I've done my studying, I've done my interning, let's do this now. And now you're
Yeah. Now I'm here. Yeah.
yeah,
I think you really have to take opportunities as they come. Like, I think they're, it's good to say no to opportunities. And I think those having that boundary is good. But I also think in the beginning, like saying yes to a lot of things, it's not, within reason, not burning yourself out. But that really helped narrow down. Okay, I don't really, I think, want to be in the museum space. I think that felt too much of like an institution for me. And teaching, to your point, I
mm,
love children, but I don't actually want my day to day to be with teaching kids art. I think all of those, I think everything requires certain energy and from yourself, and to know, how are you supposed to know that about yourself when you're 22, or,
exactly.
when you've been sitting in a classroom for the first 20 plus years of your life? How are you supposed to know? So I think saying yes to a lot of different opportunities and just taking it as just knowledge of, okay, learning about, it's about yourself. It's like dating. Dating is like so much more about yourself than it is about finding somebody. It's like, what can I learn about myself through this process? You're like, oh, great. That's why this isn't
That's what
working, or this is.
we're gonna bring you back for another dating special 101, okay? We're gonna create a new side podcast just for that. You mentioned some of the like difficulties, the hustle, like the
Yeah.
lifestyle. What other difficulties do you face and did you face in the beginning and some that you face now?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people experience like the imposter syndrome. Like, I definitely have felt that a lot in the beginning of just um like, there's no user manual of how to go into a professional working field, and pretending like you know everything but you don't, and how many times a day am I googling things to be like, what does this
Life.
acronym mean? um
Yes.
So I think a lot of people sure also relate to that, just that imposter syndrome of at some point you have to just realize nobody knows everything, and it's okay to just own that. I think that's something that I'm still working on, of knowing when to be like, I actually don't know the answer to that, even if I feel like I should. And the more times I have owned up to that, I'm met with so much more grace and understanding of, oh yeah, let me take a step back and explain what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Or I think humanity is a lot more understanding than what we think they are, and just being like, um, yeah, just empathetic towards other people and being honest with where you're at has been really helpful in my own growth, to get where I'm at, and just continuing to be curious and asking questions,
Yeah.
because that's the only way you're going to know. And then also knowing the times when you're like, I'm actually not going to do this. I'm going to do some self research and find out on my own. And then if I have questions, I'll follow up. But yeah,
I appreciate that. And I think it's actually quite scary for people to admit they don't know anything because we live in that generation where we're all trying to like show this facade, like, yeah, we know everything, we're experts in the field. And it's very
yeah,
one knows everything there is to do with a specific field.
I think that's what's so funny about this whole NFT boom as well. It's because, everyone's looking for like a hierarchy in that space, and it's so new, and yes, there are quote unquote experts, but it's not like we're talking about cooking or music or something that has been around for like hundreds of years, and you can study people that have come before. Digital art's been around for a while, but it's funny how we're looking for who are these experts in this space, and it's so new, and people are popping up and saying, "Oh, I'm an expert." Like, expert of what? Like 2 years? Like,
Ah, it's
or like
true.
2 months? Or like you are on Twitter and you just retweet things and that makes you an expert? But yeah, it's an interesting. We really like to throw out these categories of expert and non-expert really haphazardly, in my opinion.
No, do you know what? I totally agree with you. I was reading this quote on Twitter the other day. I don't know where it came from. And it's talking about like stop looking for experts and the best in the field to guide you or to look up to. You can
Yeah,
obviously take inspiration, but your journey will never be the same. And also just make your own mistakes. Like there are
right,
calculated risks, but at the same time, you can't keep looking for experts for everything
right,
when you need to grow in your field because you might have an alternative way of doing things.
right.
No,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. In your role, obviously you
Mhm.
don't have to answer this question, but do you feel like it's a welcoming space for women? Do you feel like you've ever like had to come up with, glass ceiling issues? And I don't know too much about the art space. So just
Yeah.
love to hear about like what it is to be a woman in this industry.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a great question because I mentioned this in the beginning, I'm a team of five, and it's actually all women, five sales people on my team.
Mm.
A majority of the employees at SAATCHI, I don't know the actual breakdown, but close to nearly 50% or more are all females. And in art history courses, it's over 50% females that are in those classes. But then you look at the directors of these large museums, and most of the time they're men. You see like at the very very top of these different galleries. You think of like all the main big galleries are usually men that are the large directors of these spaces, but then underneath them is a lot of women that work for
Yeah.
them. So there's a lot of women in this space. And I think that there has been, more push in the last, 5 to 10 years for there to be greater equality. But I do think that you still are seeing that it's men at the end of the day that they're at like that top tier.
Right.
And, I thought about that a lot, like why is that? Or I think there's probably a couple different theories of like, men just feel, have been given more opportunities, or maybe I think we, as women, we don't always think that we have, like, we deserve that, like that imposter syndrome, or if we have that capability, or we have to make sacrifices. Maybe it is with family, and women end up taking more of that hit than men do. They'll take time off to be with um, to have children, and that could set them back in their career. We just have like a lot more questions to juggle. I personally haven't felt any personal bias. I'm still at the beginning of my career. I think to be at, that those other levels, those higher levels of being a director or someone that's fully, I don't know, ahead of a really large institution, maybe they would have a different opinion because they would see it on that like bigger scale. But
Totally.
for the place that I'm at, I've seen a lot of great opportunity as a man or a woman, or however you identify. But I definitely still see that gap. And I don't think it's just in the art world. I know you see that in large corporations or a lot in most other fields. But I think, there is a lot of opportunity more so than ever where women are stepping up and being I don't know, the conquerors of their own destiny, and they are becoming their own CEO, or they're starting their own initiatives. And I think that that's popping up more and more. I don't remember seeing that as a kid that
Yeah.
much. And I think we we're see to believe type people. We have to see it being done, and then like that pushes the next generation and the next group of people to be like, yes, I can do that as well. It's like you look at the generations past, like the 50s, 40s, 50s, the 1940s and 50s. Like women were just staying at home and didn't have this space to dream or want to do what they are passionate in. Of course, there's outliers and all of that, but I think we've already come a long way when you put it into perspective. Yeah, but there's still more to come. I think women are really resilient and will continue to blow people away, blow
I
men away.
No
Yeah,
traits here. I'm not gonna
yeah,
approach that. No, definitely. And being seen is so important. Like if you see someone
yeah.
who looks like you or a woman that's like you in that space,
Hmm.
it really does motivate you to think, okay, there is a space for me in this industry.
Yeah, no, representation matters in all. Like, you have to see it. You have to see that that person places value, or that person was given accolades or success. Yeah, I totally agree.
So I want to ask you a question because I find this so weird that I'm talking with you and in the space that you're where you work and what you do in the art industry. I recently
Yeah.
flew to Istanbul. This is pure luck. I joined a new company at a very good time. But we were invited to go to CI Bloom, Contemporary Istanbul. I don't know if you've
Uh
heard of
huh.
it. Oh,
I have. Yeah.
yeah, of course you have. And so I went, I was very lucky. I got to see loads of different galleries. I saw a digital art gallery. I saw their main one that they're opening near Galata Port. I saw loads of
Oh,
different ones.
cool.
And I was there obviously just to kind of like understand what's going on. They're investing a lot in the art scene to basically talk about it for our company, kind of like a
Sure.
and a lot of the people that were on the trip with us were art collectors, art buyers, all of these different kind of mismatch of people. Um, they were arguing a lot. So when it came to the digital art stuff, they were like, no, no, this is not. Some of them were super like, this is art, this is the future of art. Others were like, no.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
How do you feel about all of this? I'm just really interested. What do you think is going on with
I know it's a hot topic, huh?
there was somebody arguing for like half an hour Erin, about this tree that was drawn on an bread. And I'm not even joking. You think that someone had insulted his family member. He was so passionate. And I was just sitting there like, are we still talking about this tree? So I'm just really interested from someone who's in that space and super experienced and obviously you have an opinion on all of this. What do you think about this digital art stuff?
Oh, it depends on the day. It depends on the mood I'm in. But I mean, at the end of the day, no, honestly, I do think it is art. I think that, it's just another medium, right? It's like
Yeah.
whether it's a paintbrush and a canvas, it's their computer and, whatever program they're using. Yeah, of course, we see so much digital work, whether it's in films or in all spaces. So definitely digital art is art. I have no arguments there. I
Yeah.
think with the whole new NFT space and it now being categorized, I guess it's fine art. And I think there is so much that is yet to be unpacked with it. And it's so wrapped up with crypto right now. I think with like people are valuing it. It's if crypto is going down, then NFTs go down. You don't see that same like correlation necessarily. If I was to buy a painting, you're not like, okay, the dollar's down, my painting's down. So
Right.
I think that they're, as much as those continue to be connected so much, it's going to kind of make the space a little muddy and confusing because there's so many hoops to purchase NFTs.
Yeah.
You have to have a wallet, and you have to understand the blockchain and all these different things. There's all these barriers to entry right now. And I was reading an interesting something on Twitter as well. and they were talking about how, someone was really happy about how that crypto has tanked recently, and the value is gone down. And so now that's actually going to give time for creators to actually create what they like and what they want to be creating in the digital art space, and not just creating so that they can make a quick buck.
Right.
Or even the collectors alike. It's okay. Now it's like when I talk to collectors and like, well, I want to be purchasing artwork. And the first thing I always say is buy what you love, invest in what you love. And then we can figure out what makes sense, building your portfolio of works that you're wanting to purchase. And I think it's just been an investment, make money first type space where people have been entering of, okay, I'm going to buy this because I've heard that this has gone up 10x.
Yeah.
And so now that that's off the table and crypto just sucks, this is actually a really amazing space where we can actually figure out, okay, we're agreeing, whether people like it or not, we're agreeing that this is fine art, and that's great. So how can we now pivot and make this into um, not just like a quick buy,
Yeah.
and how can we make this accessible for more creators and more collectors? And because at the end of the day, we buy art because it enriches our life, or we create art because it enriches our life. And how do we get back to that core with digital art, not instead of this arguing if this tree on an iPad is real art or not? I feel like we're losing touch with what the foundation of what it is.
Yeah.
uh, so I think that this is a good time. It's hard for, I know, I mean, I personally am not bought into all like Bitcoin and all that. And if I was, I probably would have a different opinion and be really sad right now. But I think that this is a really good opportunity for creators in that space to really focus on, take a step back. We're past that Beeple boom that Christie's released their NFT and millions, and that piece sold for millions of dollars, or I don't know how many Ethereum it was. So
Right.
here's the time to just really assess, okay, how can we make this space um, different? This is the future. We're having this conversation, and you're in London, I'm in LA, we're recording it, and it's going to go to people in lots of other places. So I think digitization of everything is here, and for some reason, fine art just happens to be one of those hot topic buttons with digitization of it. But yeah, I'm here for it. I agree. A lot of it's really crappy. A lot of it's like that doesn't look good, and that's really shitty art. I trust me. I agree. I think there's a lot of silly shit being made. I think that there's a lot of questionable things. I think
In
it's all of it.
every
It's everything.
yeah, yeah, totally.
I hear all of the complaints. Yes, is this the black market? Is it sketchy? All that. Yeah, and I think it's just so new. We're
Yeah.
figuring it all out, and I think we're gonna look back even 10 years from now and laugh and be like, "Wow, we were really." I don't think I can't say I'm an early adapter, because I I know there's people that have been in this space for a while and have tons of NFTs, but
Yeah.
I don't want to be a late adapter. I feel like I want to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Moving
Yeah.
away from the digital stuff, I know you said that's not
Yeah.
really something you're obsessed with. What's the
No.
best piece of art you've curated, or your favorite piece? Something that you just won't forget?
Oh, yeah, I know. It's so hard. That's like asking a musician, like, what's your favorite song? I mean,
Yeah.
um,
Or most
I mean,
memorable then? What's something
yeah.
that stuck with you?
Well, I would say in terms of art that I've curated, I mean, I really like my curation of my home, of the artworks that I've purchased. But I would say, like some of my favorite artists, like I did my thesis paper on Rothko, so I love Mark Rothko. I love, he's abstract expressionist, those minimal paintings. I really love his works always stay with me. I haven't curated his stuff, but he definitely is an inspiration of um, art and artists that I love. I I think studying art history, it's like I love all, I love the Michelangelos, I love Impressionistic, I love all the different styles. But I think for me, what I really love, if I had to choose like one style to be with forever, I love neon art. I love California light art. I love James Turrell. I love this just mood ambiance. It's not like your typical art. It's not like a painting on a wall. It's more of installation. Yeah, but that's not really answering curating. It's a little different because I don't. I mean, I've done curated digital exhibitions, but I haven't had the chance to curate a physical show yet in my career, and that's a goal that I do have. And so maybe I'll get back to TBD on a work that I have specifically curated. But there are many artists that I could reference that I love. That I would a dream would be to curate a show of those different artists.
Down for a part two, that's fine. And then
Yeah,
we'll have
yeah.
an updated art piece on that wall. So I'm down for that.
Hmm. Exactly.
I also would feel really silly to not ask you this while we've got you, in case someone's listening to this and is new to the art world or really wants to work in the industry in the space that you're in.
Yeah.
What advice would you give? What are your top tips for getting through and understanding and growing and finding their space in this huge industry?
Yeah, I think I'll keep it specific to working, I think, in the fine art world. I think that for me, I had a really hard time finding resources of how to get started in this career. What are the steps to this, or how do I do this beyond just internships or education? And I would what I kind of already spoke about before is saying yes to as many opportunities as possible. Finding out what it is that you enjoy about the art space. Do you like sales? Do you like I know certain people love the writing aspect. Maybe it's doing more editorial work and it's writing about shows. Finding out what it is that how you like interacting with art. Do you like it in the sales aspect? Do you like writing about it? Do you like talking to people about it? Maybe you would want to be working in a museum and bringing people around to look at art. Do you like research? Maybe you want to be in the registrar at a museum and being in that space. I think getting curious about what it is that you like about art and what could you see, and not what you just like in a hobbyist way, but what you could actually spending your day to day with. I think I really enjoy working with both artists and collectors. I have always been in more of a sales space, even outside of the art world when I was in college and jobs that I had. And having a business background, I really enjoy numbers and seeing growth within a company. And so that really seemed to suit me well. So I would just, encourage anyone to just, take a look at what it is that you love about interacting with art and get curious and reach out to people. I grabbed coffee with other people in this space and just asked them questions of how they got to that job, and doing it not so that I could get something from them, because I think people can feel that. I wasn't doing it so I could get a job from them, but I just wanted to know what are the skills that I need. I worked. I was an editor for an art critic for a while and learned a lot from him. And so I think pulling on from people that you're drawn to. There's a reason why you're drawn to them, and people are usually pretty receptive to give advice. Just staying curious and following those pings and just asking questions.
Erin, thank you so much for
Yeah,
chatting with me. Honestly, I've learned so much, and also you're a very, very inspiring woman. You're very chirpy.
thank
You
you.
sound so passionate about what you do, and that's really, really lovely. And
Thank
I wish
you.
you the best with your career moving forward as well.
Thank you. No, this was so fun. I'm glad this worked out. I feel so honored that you wanted to hear anything about my story. So
Of
thank you.
course. No, you're welcome. Where can people find you just in case they want to see what you're up to? Are you on socials or anything?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Instagram, you can follow me. My handle is a finer eye. I'll send it to you spelling wise, but AFINEREYE. And that's probably the best way that you can connect with me is there.
Amazing. And we'll definitely tag you when this is all uploaded as well. So if people want to find you,
Great.
it's easier as well. But honestly, I had such a lovely evening. I know
You
it's the
too.
afternoon where you are, but I'm going to leave you to your day.
You have a good evening.
I'm going to Egypt tomorrow, so I'm going to go pack.
Wow. Safe travels.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely afternoon.
You too. Bye bye.